Hello everyone, this is Master Jedi Adam again with the second of a multi-part series in how to use the Star Wars LCG plugin for LackeyCCG. This second segment will be about the deck editor tab or pane and how one can use it in a number of pretty fantastic and powerful ways. So if you'll notice, we're going to do the same thing that we did with the first part of this series, and we're going to start from the top left and move to the bottom right and demonstrate some of the various features that you can see. Again, as mentioned before, there are many more features than what I'm going to show you, but this will at least get you started so you can jump right in and start playing the game. Just like with the Game tab or the Game pane, you'll notice in the top left corner there's the image. This is the last image that we loaded, and you'll probably recognize it as the same last image that you saw from the previous video. But as we scroll over any of the cards that you would see in the other panes to the right, you'll see that image as the last one. And just like before, if you want to see, as you notice, if it encroaches over, I have it set to where I can see the whole card regardless, but then when I move away, it falls back into its pane so that I can see the remainder of the space. Just underneath of the picture pane, you'll notice something that says turn all filters off. That's making reference to all of the filters that you see underneath of here. What you'll notice is just about anything that you would like to know about a card, everything from its name down to keywords or even to the objective set, are all represented here. But I'm going to show you that inside of this edit filter, I can choose all of these as well. So if you need to use one of these multiple times, multiple different pieces, then you can do that to get right and left limits, say for combat icons of various types. Turning all filters off will unhighlight all of them. So that's the filters, pretty self-explanatory. Mess around with it and see what works for you. These are in the order of the file that I use to manage the card pool. So the next pane over to the right is the deck pane itself. So you'll notice there are buttons New Deck, Open Recent, a drop down where you can see the 10 most recent decks that I've loaded or have been working on, a Browse button, and a Paste button. So New Deck is going to reset whatever is there. So if I open the last deck, which was my Pure Rebel Pilots deck, and I wanted to start from scratch again, let's say I decided I didn't want to work on this anymore, I can click New Deck and you'll notice that it clears all three of the Command, Objective, and Force zones. Now, let's say that I wanted to open a deck that wasn't among the most recent or the most recent. I could pick one of these, let's say Rebel Limited, and this is just another list with some pretty interesting deck ideas here, but nothing of too terribly much consequence. But if I wanted to see all of the decks that I had loaded, they would be all listed here in one location. My suggestion to you is that even though you can click on this button and open a directory, that you keep all of your decks loaded in one directory, because it's very difficult to maneuver through, and the functionality isn't to maneuver out of the primary folder for your decks if you're not on a Windows machine. So my suggestion is that you keep them all in one place, and this was part of the reason why I moved the world deck lists and the regional deck lists out of this area, as well as the pre-constructed decks, and into a different area, which I'll demonstrate here in a moment. Now let's say that I want to load a deck, and just for the sake of it, we'll go back to the Pure Rebel Pilot deck here. You'll notice that there it shows the number that I have, the name, and all of the stats all the way across. So you can see all of them. My suggestion is that you load the images so that you can read them from the side here, but if you had turned text on instead, you would also be able to see the text over top of the image. Browse, I've already demonstrated what it does, and Paste allows you to manipulate decks in some interesting ways. The tabs underneath of here demonstrate the different zones, command, objectives, and force. And as you can see, I've actually loaded my affiliation card in with the force zone. It just makes it easier, at least for me, to do that. The deck name here, you can change it to whatever you would like. And as you want to save things, you'll notice these buttons at the bottom. So I can, let's say for example, I wanted to view everything that I had loaded in my objectives. By clicking on the view tile, I can see all of the objectives images all at once. And if I wanted to zoom in on them, I hold down, I can hold down and zoom in and out of these. But for the sake of doing it right now, don't worry about it. I can see all of the objectives. All the way across. Save deck, just like it says, pretty simple based on whatever name you have here. Make certain to change the name if you're using one deck as the base for another one, otherwise you'll save over top of them. Export as text does exactly what it says it might do. Copy will copy the deck so that it can then be pasted somewhere else if you're working on just a few objective sets. Load entire deck to you. Load entire deck to you will allow this deck to be loaded, and if you'll notice, it also moves me now back to the game pane, and now we see my command is loaded, my force is loaded, and if I hit the hand button, now I have a hand of 6 cards that I can see. So load to your objective. This is if I was loading different things, or if I needed to make a change very quickly to a deck and play, I can do that as well. The plus and minus button just allows me to do things. And of course, if you have a shared pile for multiplayer, which is a feature that I'm currently working on, which is why you see it here, if you were doing that, then that would be another way that you could modify this piece here. And again, just as a review, you can click the view tile and see that there. The combined reprints isn't very helpful here. It's helpful in other games, but because of the way that I have organized it, there are no reprints. Alright, so the pane underneath of this is where you actually would get the cards if you were trying to build a deck. So right now the tab shows all cards, and I can do a quick search by name. So if I was looking for Luke Skywalker, I could type in Luke, and you'd notice that I would get all of the various iterations of Luke Skywalker, or anything that starts with Luke, to include his lightsaber and the land speeder. Now if I wanted Luke Skywalker, I could continue to type here, and it will just filter those cards. As you'll notice, I see both the Rebel Luke Skywalker and the Jedi Luke Skywalkers. If I wanted, for example, to just see the Jedi cards, and thus only quick search and find the Jedi Luke Skywalkers, I could go over to the next tab, which is Card Pool. And you'll notice there are a bunch of features here, but I'm going to just show you the one, and this is the Add a Pack or Random Deck. By clicking on this, you'll notice I have all of the various card pools, and this represents all of the objective sets of a particular affiliation. There's Neutral, Jedi, Rebel Alliance, Smuggler's and Spies, and LS Neutral. These packs, I'll just load the Navy one by choosing here. You'll notice that it has the maximum number of any of these cards that I can have in play. So I can have 3 of the Force cards, 1 of the Navy affiliations, 2 copies of Imperial Command, and these are organized in such a way that you can see all of the cards in the objective set. Now, if I wanted to remove the promos, for example, I could go over here and set and click on the filter labeled Set and change it to Doesn't Contain and select Promo. And now you'll notice the Admiral Mahdi promo is now removed from my list of available cards to choose from. I'll turn that back on so you can see that he's now back. The reason why these numbers are set the way they are, and just for the sake of it, let's scroll down here, let's find a limit 1 of. So there's Repair and Refurbish, limit 1 per objective deck. You'll notice there's only 1 that can be added. Why this is important is that you will notice a button down here at the bottom that says Verify Deck. As long as that button stays black, that means that you have built a legal deck. If you built it using the all cards and you wanted to see if it was legal, I could click on it here. Now, as you can see, this is only the Navy cards. If I wanted to build a 2 or a multiple affiliation deck, all that I would do is add the next card pool. By clicking on choose, now I have Imperial Navy and Sith that are both added here, and I can now add cards from both Sith as well as, let's find some Navy cards, as well as Navy. And right now they're organized by objective set, so they'll be in numeric order, starting with, of course, Fall of Jedi being set number 19. If I use this particular configuration of card pools, excuse me, often I could give this card pool a name and save it down at the bottom using the Save Card Pool button, and I could build my own card pool that I could reuse over and over and over again. Now, let's say that what I really want to do is I want to see what the best players at some high levels of organized play were playing. I've also added packs or decks to the same card pool feature. So in addition to the lists, which you've already seen, here are the pre-constructed decks from the core, from Between the Shadows, from Imperial Entanglements, and from Edge of Darkness. After you move past these pre-constructed decks, you'll notice I have a World Championship area here. And what we have is we have 1st through 16 from the 2015 World Championship play. So by clicking on Tom's deck, for example, and choosing it, I get all of the cards here. The way that it's designed, unfortunately, I could not divide it into sections, but it's easily enough done by using the filters to the right. So let's say, for example, that I want to build this deck very quickly and I've just loaded this. I could come over here to the filters and I could click on type, and I could choose doesn't contain, and just by typing objective, I've now filtered all of the objectives out. I can now, using the buttons at the bottom, using the add all to deck and selecting command at the top here, I can add all of those cards to the deck. Now, you'll notice that my affiliation card needs to be dragged to the force zone, as well as the 3 DS Force cards, but as you can see highlighted here, it drags them all at once. So now I have my command deck of 50 cards, my force of 4, and now I click on the objective zone, click on my filter again, and by selecting contains, now all I see are the objectives. I can add all to my deck, and there in less than 1 minute I've now built Tom's World Championship DS deck from the 2015 World Championship. I've now demonstrated all of the various features that this has. Oh, I'm sorry, one other quick note, sorry to tangent here, but I could save this deck if I wanted just by doing this, by using the same features that I talked about earlier. So in a few minutes here we've gone over the major deck features, and I can load this deck to myself, by the way, even without saving it. So now I've got my deck loaded here, and if I wanted to load the test dummies, I could click on the test dummy here, click deck editor, open this deck, and now I have 2 decks loaded just by flipping back and forth, and now I can test my decks if I would like. Alright, thanks for watching.